It's Footy and Frothies. Barney and Daggy are with you to preview round one of the NRL finals for season 2023. Welcome aboard if it's your first time. We do this each and every week, twice a week. Talk shit, suck piss, and analyse and give pretty sound and good analysis of each and every rugby league game. Barn, what's going on?
Finals. Bring it on. How good is it? Finals time. If we don't see some of the best games this weekend, I'll be very, very surprised.
We got a little sniff last week with the Roosters Souths games for a bit. A little bit of Canberra, lower end Canberra Sharks, but once we start talking finals, it's different footy, different intensity. We sort of know the teams that have that gear.
Yep.
Let's try and speculate into what teams might find that gear or what are about to. But it's exciting footy. It's different footy, and looking forward to it all.
Yeah, just the competitiveness and the toughness that most teams have to find to jag a win in these kind of games, because they generally go deep, and there's a fight on in most positions of the field, and yeah, some of the matchups and the one-on-one contests are just brilliant just to watch. And
particularly, we kick off with a real cracker, but all four games are very tremendously interesting. We may as well get straight into it because we got no other bullshit to talk about. Let's kick off with the Thursday night game. Just quickly check out rugbyleaguemerch.com to buy some sexy hats, steins, all sorts of good stuff. Thanks everyone that support us over Father's Day. Leave us some comments below and feedback via social media. But we kick off with the Broncos and the Storm from Suncorp. Melbourne, I believe, a 13 straight against Brisbane.
yes,
So I've been told.
Similar.
13 straight at Suncorp.
Okay.
I'll run through. May as well go old school here. For Brisbane, Walsh is the fullback. Arthurs, Staggs, Farnworth, Cobbo, Mam, Reynolds is back. Flegler, Walters, Haas, Capel, Ricky, Carrigan. The bench is Smoothie, Piacora, Hetherington, and Paliasia. Obviously, extended bench includes Corey Oates, who's been shuffled out. The Storm, Nick Meaney does get the fullback spot. Warbrick, Seve, Tonomapia, Coates, Munster, Hughes, Kamakamika starts. Harry Grant starts. Walsh starts. Loureiro, who's been fantastic in this last month. Katoa, King, bench is Bronson Garlick, Eisenhuth, Nelson off the bench, and Pappenhausen at 17. Yeah, probably as good at teams as both of these squads could put out, really.
Pretty close to it. Yeah, there's not many names missing in those lineups that you've just read. Meaney, obviously an interesting one coming back into fullback. I think they had to go that way. You can see that
I'd never doubted they weren't going to.
Pappenhausen was, he was still fast and still productive in what he did last week in the game that they played. Just seemed a step or two below his absolute best. But obviously offers a bit of X factor now coming in off the bench.
I watched that game and actually thought they're closer to making him into a half down the road rather than getting back to one. But I'm also an idiot. No, shut
up. Forward matchup for mine is probably where this game gets won. We've had a few question marks around the Melbourne Storm forward pack. Their starting pack is as good as most of them and will be very competitive. I've got a few question marks about what happens when we go into that bench rotation. Broncos are similar, but there's a little bit more size there with that forward rotation, and I think they can probably keep it a little bit more consistent in the middle of the field than what Melbourne can when we start getting into the minutes where blokes need a bit of a rest. So really looking forward to Haas and Carrigan coming back in. I think they're probably the difference in this game compared to what we saw last week. Unpredictable attack from both sides. When you add the likes of Pappenhausen coming off the bench, Reece Walsh injecting himself into the play, Ezra Mam is generally a direct runner, but he's also does have quite a good passing game. Set up with
Harry probably plays 70 minutes. Now, Garlic on the bench, Harry probably plays 70 minutes because Bronson's going to have to play some back row to nurse Pappy into the game somewhere.
Munster and Hughes. Munster doesn't know what Munster's doing, so good luck figuring that out. And Hughes, just like Reynolds, very good at controlling the middle of the field. Very good kicking games from both. Probably a shade better from Reynolds than what you get out of Jerome Hughes, but he's very effective close to the line with his kicking game. There's short little grubbers in and around the posts and to his back rowers. So I think it's going to be very close for a very long period of the game. I'm going to go with man of the match, Payne Haas. I think there will be a point in this game where he absolutely goes into Hulk mode for 10 or 15 minutes and causes some really big problems for blokes that are trying to tackle him, and then that'll lead to the likes of Walsh and some of these centres and wingers coming in off the back of the work that he's done to open up some points. I'm going to go with Staggs, first try scorer, and I'm going to go Brisbane 1-12.
I'm coming with you. Let's break this down. If we're going this game as a clutch game, they've got the best front row in the game and the best lock in the game. Coming back into this team, Carrigan's had his 3 weeks rest, rested up. Hopefully his legs working, everything's going well there. But Brisbane are as close as Penrith in that they go harder and faster for longer and drag you into the deeper waters. And yes, some of these Melbourne players have lived in that water, but the majority haven't. And I think that's what's going to set them up. I think that it's going to be physical to start with, but the physicality the more physical it gets, the more it's going to suit Brisbane. Haas, they love it. Haas, Carrigan, Ricky, Capel, all love it. Get into it. I'm basically going to agree with you. I'm going to pick as my sort of point of contention here as the outside backs. Once we get out there, Seve and Tonabe have been great since they've come back. They have, but Staggs and Farnworth have that X factor.
They've been brilliant all year.
And they've been great. And I like the selection of Jesse Arthurs.
And they've probably been getting better.
Yeah. And I like they've picked Arthurs because he has the same thing. He can produce something off nothing, whereas with all due respect to Corey Oates, he's at the back end. He's had more,
a bit of a tradesman.
He's got he's had more yesterdays than tomorrows. So I think tradesman's a good word. And Selwyn, we know what Selwyn can produce at their best. If they're fired up for this, that middle is going to, at either end of the field, they're going to get into this. And I think Brisbane just have the X factor on both sides, and that's without even mentioning the biggest X factor, which is Reece Walsh, who has been phenomenal all year. In my humble, should be Australian fullback. His speed off the mark, his ability to chime in, his ability to not chime in and throw a rainbow ball. If they set up properly for him,
he's developing a little bit of
a star.
Short kicking game as well.
The crossfield kicking game, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with, put it this way, let's just say I can imagine that our 3-2-1 being 3 Haas, 2 Walsh, 1 Carrigan. And this being 1-12. But I think I wouldn't even say a comfortable 1-12, but a solid 1-12.
There'll be moments where Munster and Harry are threatening and
any team
with the rest of it.
With Grant, Munster, Hughes, Pappenhausen can be terrifying, but I think we've seen how often those outside backs have got handled.
I think they may even hit the front at some point, to be honest.
I'm surprised they score first.
But I just think Brisbane will be still ticking over at the back end of the game where some of these forwards from the Storm
Brisbane,
might not
at the best we know, have 12 points in the last 10 minutes. So Melbourne have to lead by 12 or have them fall off a cliff not to.
Yep.
And then we kick off at 4:05 from BlueBet Stadium, which I am, I know is already sold out as they host the Warriors. Where am I going to watch footy this week, actually? Because it'd be annoying being around here.
The deck.
Ideas, man.
The garage.
No, well, feel free to invite me. Ed, there is some Group 2 racing on the Fiends on this week. But anyway, Penrith hosting the Warriors here. Edwards, Taruva, Tungo, Crichton, Tuo, Cogger, Cleary is the backline. Leota, Mitch Kenny's back in at hooker. Fish is 10. Sorensen, Martin, Yo. What a year for Sorensen's been. Peachy, Smith, Lenu, Hoskins is the bench. No Sonny Luke, Summerton on the extended bench. So they're running with Peach. I guess he's going to be the one to give Kenny a break.
Utility.
But he may well not take a break because generally he doesn't. He just moves out and about. For the Warriors, Chance, Dallin, Berry, Pompey, Montoya, Tamari Martin, Johnson. The front row is Fanua Blake and Barnett. Wade Egan's back. Jackson Ford's back. Niokore Tohu is back, but there is concerns around his back. Dylan Walker, Tavanga, Siren and Curran, they've gone all-out bash. 4 forwards on the bench. What are we doing?
I think you might even... I think Penrith might lose this forward battle, to be honest. But I don't think it'll matter. You saw what the outside backs for Penrith did last week. You're adding back in now Sorensen, who's been one of the form back rowers in the game. I want to see Liam Martin's eyes spinning just like they were last week from the first minute of this game, because there's going to be a massive matchup there in here. I think this will go back to what Penrith doing for the front half, where I can see Warriors owning them for 15 minutes, belting the fuck out of them, pitting them there, making them Cleary have to kick out, and Cogger have to kick out. And there's not a bad play here in Cogger who you can trust kicking out and taking the pressure a little bit off Nathan of course.
to start the game. But I can see Warriors having a lot of field position, but Penrith trust their
defense,
red zone defence, and then you'll see it start to turn around the 15, 20-minute mark.
And I think it'll come through the likes of Liam Martin and Scott Sorensen. I think the edges of the ruck are going to be extremely important in this game. And then the wider you get, I think it sets up more and more towards a Penrith victory. Likes of Taruva, Toto, Crichton, Targo out in the... I think the centres and the wingers at the back end of this game will well and truly put it out of the reach of the Warriors. I really don't know whether to go 13 plus or 1 to 12.
Did we go first try scorers in the last game?
I did. I said Stags. I don't know about if you put one out there.
I'll go Stags as well. Carry on.
Yeah, I think the back rowers are going to be a massive importance because they really need to shut down the likes of Jackson Ford as well, who's been tremendous for the Warriors. And as long as Penrith can at least match them through the middle with the likes of Barnett, Tohu Harris, Fanua Blake, then I think they'll get them with speed and footwork out in the back row and out in the centres. Penrith 1 to 12. I'm going to go with Liam Martin, man of the match, because what I saw from him last week with the way his eyes are spinning around and he's belting blokes left, right and centre, if he can do that and add a try to it, it's pretty close to man of the match kind of performance. And first try scorer, he's a critter. He's in such good form in the last, 3 weeks? He's been close to the best player on the field every time he's walked out there in the last 3 weeks. So I'm going to back him in for that one.
I don't disagree in his farewell tour for the Penrith Panthers. If you look at this team from the bottom up, I'm from some 17 up.
I didn't even mention the sevens. Fuck me.
this is where I'm going.
Get there.
So look through some of these clashes, even Hoskin, Curran
sevens,
on the bench as a clash. I'm not going to go name for name, but Lenu Tavanga off the bench is a tremendous clash because they're same for same, physical, get in there. Peach and Walker, you almost give it to Walker, but Peachy's had an outstanding season. Tohu and Yo, what a matchup. Niokore forward against Sorensen Martin, 4 tremendous hole hitters. Yeah. Outstanding matchup, and in the front row, best front row in the game, you could argue Fanua Blake against Leota and Fish, and Barnett's been good. You'd almost give Egan the points here, but then you work up, and you've got Cleary versus Johnson, the two, right now, probably the 2 form halves of the comp.
Absolutely.
If DC wasn't around, which he's not, because he's probably halfway to Bali by now. But incredible matchup. But then when you get above that, and you hit Tango and Crichton against Berry and Pompey, to me, it's actually panic stations, not just it's panic stations, because they are both in red hot form.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just for the sake of the argument, I'll go Tango first try scorer.
Yep.
But it really concerns me. I agree with what you said about Crichton. He's had his last 6 weeks have been phenomenal. I think Penrith's going to win this. I think Penrith's going to win this well. I think this will be a blowout. This will be 13 plus, and it may well be nil after 20. That's how much it.
Okay.
I want to see but the thing is, to beat what I want to see from the Warriors is try something different.
Yep.
That's what we've said. Like, kick low, kick short, grab
Kick
it through,
early,
make them
pass
bring it
early.
back,
Yeah.
move the ball early, make them turn and chase. You've got to make Penrith beat you. You've got to make them chase 12 points or 18 points. And then you've got to be good at it anyway. I don't think the Warriors can. I think this will be close for a long time, and I think the last 10 minutes, Penrith, the full house, sold out, noise.
Centers and wingers scoring.
Scoring
everywhere.
Probably 2 tries in the last 5 minutes just to blow it out to 13 plus. Tungo first try, and I'm going to say, well, the maestro will have you say he clear. He's come back. He has been outstanding since he's come back from that injury. And that will continue. Another cracker. The elimination final is the main event, 10 to 8 Saturday night, Barn.
If we're going to be together from, say, 3 p.m. until 8 o'clock start for this one.
I've got no kids Sunday, so that's fine. Because I get to sleep in Sunday, and I go come and watch UFC with another dingbat. That's fine.
Down at PointsBet, all the talk around the stadium. At the end of the day, the rules are the rules, and Sharks are right within their rights to say, no, they're not moving it. Yeah, it disappoints probably 10,000 people that could have got into a different stadium, but
find me a club that would have.
They changed the rules, 8 years ago or whatever it was, and that's what they are.
But then next week it goes back to, it's just this week.
Goes back to cities.
Yeah.
Or states or... Yeah.
I got no issue. I got no issue with it this week. No issue. Same as Bluebet. You could argue the same about Blue. You cannot tell me...
The Sharks can only fit 12 in there at the moment because of the
Bluebet
construction.
only holds 19, I think.
Yeah, still.
20. Let's call it
19, 20 is a big difference to 12.
Penrith... I think Penrith Warriors could have got 45 at...
Probably
actually could have got 60 at ANZ if they went there.
Get at least 30. They could have sold out Combank with
could have
30.
Easily have sold out Combank in the shade, and if you'd gone to ANZ, they would have come as well.
And Sharks Roosters probably would have sold out
unlike some
Combank
clubs,
as well.
Penrith fans do travel, and Warriors fans do travel. But so I can't hold this against them if Penrith didn't do it. Like,
interesting game. Completely terrified with the Roosters outside backs.
Teams out. Tracy Katoa, Ramian, Talakai, Molitalo, Trindle, Hines, Rudolph, Brayley, Halmanueli, Nicola, Graham McGuinness. Whatever happened to Finucane? He was done, wasn't he? Did his elbow or something? Williams, Hunt, Hazelton, Kafusi for the Chooks. Tedesco, Ponga keeps his spot. Who's been good? Oh, ex-Tiger. Smith, Manu, Swiley, Kiri Walker, Fletcher Baker starts in the front row with Brandon Smith and Lindsay Collins. Sia Wong, Nat Butcher, Victor Radley. I like the fact that Robbo's picked on form here. Smith, Egan Butcher, Terrell May, and Guzzi Crichton off the bench. I guess the only one on form you would say deserves to be probably Drew Hutchinson, to be honest. But anyway, he's there or thereabouts. But this is what we get here. This is probably as good as we get, Barn, and now you may have your crack.
Yeah, no. Obviously, Shark supporter, I'm always going to, especially in the finals, going to be trying to... Well, I'm tipping the Sharks, but I'm completely terrified about the outside backs from the Roosters. I think the Sharks can hold the middle from the Roosters and probably even be better than the forwards, especially when it gets into that rotation period. I think a big part of this game is going to come down to the dummy halves.
Yeah.
Blake Brayley's been fantastic for the entirety of the year. Brandon Smith hasn't been great up until probably 5 or 6 weeks ago, but has definitely been getting better week on week.
You could see Bowling Ball Cheese here really having a game.
Yeah, week on week he's been getting better. Last week was probably his best game of the season, so that sort of worries me a little bit as well. But I think if Brayley's probing in and around that ruck, getting the forwards on the front foot, I think that the Sharks can get that roll through the middle of the field. It's going to be interesting whether the Sharks can get their attack to click the way that it was 10 weeks ago. I think a lot of that comes back to Kennedy, to be honest. I know we've had raps on what Tracy has been doing in and around the ruck, but it doesn't. It hasn't got the outside backs in the likes of Ramian and Mulitalo and Katoa up and going the way that Kennedy just seems to get in there. So if
we should mention Kennedy is named.
Is named in 19.
Yeah.
Tracy, from all that I've heard, is a better chance of not playing than he is of playing. Yeah. So to me, that lends the fact that Kennedy comes back. we're in all sorts of trouble, and I'd be putting money on the
We've
Roosters.
Kale Iro's named 18, so I guess he might play.
He'd probably go to.
Fullback. Unless Nick, surely Nico doesn't go to 1.
You wouldn't think so. Who are
And
they going to
bring
play at 7?
Moylan?
Moylan? Fuck, I hope not.
Could you imagine?
I think the back rows also play a big part in this game. Jack Williams, McGuinness, Nickera up against the likes of Nat Butcher, Victor Radley, and I'm missing one there from the Roosters. But
Wong's been great, and then Egan.
Guzzi on the bench as well. Yeah, the edges of the the edges of the ruck are going to be a really big part. To be honest, if I was without any bias, I'd be tipping the Roosters in this game. I just think their outside backs have been a little bit better than what the Sharks have produced in recent weeks. The Sharks have got it in them, but I'm not sure whether they're going to produce it this weekend. I'm going with Sharks 1-12. I'm hoping McGuinness does a whole ton of work in the middle of the field, creates a few opportunities in there, and I'm going to go first try score. I'm going to go with Blake Brayley to dive over out of dummy half for the first try.
I'm going to tip without any bias. I'm going to tip the Roosters. I think they have, as I said, they are a finals team. They know where they're headed and know where they're going with this sort of stuff. I do have a mute button, fine. I'll press it for you. But he got away with it the last couple of weeks, but it does still concern me the lateral defence of Talakai. Yes. And that's where I'm going to say that Billy Smith will score the first try, getting up and about. Well, he's had a great return from injury, and he can stand him. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go with Punga first try off the back of a Billy Smith.
Billy Smith's on the left.
Yeah, where's Talakai on their side?
On the right, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, the Sharks left in defence.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Well, that's mine. That's much better. Easier. So then it must be Swali first try scorer. So I'm going to go with Swali first try scorer. Roosters 1-12, and I think this will get into a game where we'll see game management really coming into. This can be a 24-16 game around a 50-minute mark, and game management's come to play. And I think Keary's going to be the one that will just nurse them.
Been very good recently.
And I'm not quite sure Sharks have that ability. We've seen for years and years and years game management be the strong point of Roosters, some of these Roosters finals games. So I'm going to go with that. As a result, I'm going to give nothing to do with that. I'm going to give James Tedesco man of the match because it's James Tedesco in an elimination final. But Keary's going to be in a conversation for said points. And interested to see because I think they can go deep here. The Chooks, I don't think they beat the top two, but I think they beat almost everyone else, to be honest, from where we're at.
Just, obviously, I'd mentioned a bit of bias and all the rest of it, but I do think if the Sharks can get the roll through the middle of the field, I think that they can really expose the edges of the ruck with the Roosters in the likes of Brayley, McGuinness and Nickera. So that's really what I'm pinning my hopes on as a Shark supporter.
Given factually Roosters still have the best red zone defence, as they say, 20-metre defence in the comp, does that concern you given Sharks don't?
No, yeah, absolutely it does. I really would like to see around that sort of 50, halfway 40-metre period, getting in and behind the ruck with the likes of Jack Williams, McGuinness, Nickera, and Blake Brayley. I think that's the way to open them up.
You can bang that front door down if you run it. If you keep that middle working, you can.
It's probably not likely. But
yeah, exactly. And then we wrap up with we head to a sold-out McDonald Jones Stadium at 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. So UFC should be done by then. Ponga, Young, Gagai, Best, Marzu, Gamble, Hastings. Front row is Saifidi and Thompson. Phoenix Crossland is at 9. Frizzell, Fitzgibbon, Elliott, Kurt Mann, Saifidi, Hetherington, Croker is the Newcastle team. And I would almost tell you I read this close to exact team out 12 months ago with the Richie Beno piss take voice. And it's incredible now that I'm about to tip him in a final. But for Canberra, we have Rapana. Schiller comes in on a wing. Whiten stays at centre. Timoko, Kotrick, Frawley and Fogarty the halves. Mariota, front row. Wolford, Tarpanay. Young, Whitehead. Puru is lock. Yeah, let's start looking at it, isn't it? Starling, Gula, Solo, and Trey Mooney. incredible. We got a stage where I reckon the average rugby league fan wouldn't even know who 6 of these blokes were. So from the Canberra team, but they are here. They do have a for and against of minus 120. Are there any hope?
The only hope I can see from them is to, Newcastle have been very susceptible through the middle of the field. Canberra's game plan for the entirety of the year is to bang that front door down and just run as hard as they can through the middle of the field. Missing Horsburgh and Papali'i, I think they're little to no chance, but they're going to have to really going to have to rely on the likes of Tarpanay, Trey Mooney and the likes to go through the middle of the field. Hudson Young on an edge is always a problem for just about anyone he plays against. But I cannot see them getting close. I think they get beaten. I think they get close to flogged, to be honest, by the back end of this game. The outside backs for Newcastle have been tremendous. Ponga with 17 needles in his shoulder still should be good enough to throw a couple of passes to finish off some stuff out there. Bradman Best is in career best form. Dominic Young just does backflips and twists and pikes and all the rest of it to put balls down in the corner. Phoenix Crossland, career best form. The fact that they've gone from a team that was dead set looking like a wooden spoon 10 weeks into this competition to be in the position that they're in now, and they've got half their teams in career best form. Yeah. Like, it's just ridiculous. And you look on the other side of the
half
field.
Half their bench is in career best form.
The Raiders probably should have lost
Lucas,
half the
Adam
games
Clune,
that they've won.
Brady Jones on the bench have all been fantastic. And that's on the not even playing, but anyway.
And yeah, the Raiders probably should have lost half the games that they won this year.
You don't say.
To me, half of the stuff that I've seen out of them, they probably looked more like a team that should have been running down with the Titans and the Dolphins than where they finished up. But they won games and they finished where they are.
Agree. I agree. I don't much more doubt. This will be 13 plus Newcastle. This will be a blowout.
Thank you.
This could be shades of 05 when the Tigers put 50 on the Cowboys in their prelim final. This could be a destruction job. A lot of Canberra players in the back 20 minutes looking for muse at each other and just looking for somewhere to hide. Sold out Newcastle.
You saw what Newcastle did to the Sharks the week before, and then you saw what the Sharks did to the Raiders.
They'll probably fucking hook Ponga and Hastings with 20 to go.
More than likely.
Just for the sake of it, because they can. And yeah, this will be a blow. This will be. I was going to say a blow job. This will be a blowaway.
Something on your mind. Newcastle 13 plus.
Yep.
I've actually got Gay Guy man of the match.
Yep.
I think he's been tremendous on that right edge, and I'm going to go with Marzu for the first try.
I'm going to go with Tyson Frizzell man of the match because in a game where their only hope is to be physical, Frizzell, Elliott, Fitzgibbon will be up and about and make sure that it's not. So I'm going to go with that first try scorer, Marzu. And 13 plus. So what's that leave us with? So it leaves us potentially Knights and the loser and Knights against Warriors. Who's the other one? Good research.
Yeah, Knights versus Warriors, and then Sharks or Roosters versus Brisbane.
Storm.
Storm. Yeah, Brisbane.
Which is very, very intriguing.
How about you win that game between the Sharks and the Roosters, and you get to travel to Brisbane or Melbourne to play one of those two?
Guess what you need.
Yeah, thanks. And then if you win that, you have to go and play Penrith.
You go Penrith at ANZ.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, good, thanks.
It's exciting though because apart from this last one, and hey, like if Canberra win, more power to them.
Yeah, good on them.
But the other three are all crackers. And I guess, do I have to ask what's got you frothing this week?
It's Friday. I know, obviously, my team's playing on the Saturday. But I'm, super excited to watch this game between the Broncos and the Storm because I think the winner of that game probably ends up in the grand final against Penrith. So.
Agree. And just for the sake of a point of difference, I'm looking forward to spending the Sharks game with you wherever or whenever we do it. And I think it should be a lot of fun. I think it won't be fun for you because you'll be pulling your hair out, but I don't care because I follow the team around last.
Hair, it's all good.
So it should be a lot of fun. It should be physical enough. It should be enough ball play. Should be enough dumb shit involved. And,
there'll be plenty of that, I'm sure.
Who's refereeing?
Might just be me. It might not even be on the field.
I was just checking for Ashley Klein, but it's Sutton, so that's fine too.
Oh, that's no good.
Actually,
Actually, he hates us both. He hates the Roosters and the Sharks, so that's all good.
Klein's doing the Newcastle game. There you go. Anyway, how good. Can't wait. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Tune in this time and this week. So next week we're going to review these 4 games. We're going to review the bottom 4, which I have to do some homework on now. Now I've opened my mouth.
Committed, yeah.
And we're going to preview the 2 games next week. The week after, we're going to do the Daggy Awards and the
best of the rest. It'd be 5.
Best of the rest.
5 teams up to 8.
So, it's a weird number
just
now.
An extra one, yeah.
Should we do the bottom 5 next week and get it out of the way?
No, do bottom 4 because everyone talks the bottom
4.
4.
4, 5, 8, 8. 4, 5, 4, 4.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. Buy some shit. Support us. Leave some feedback. And most importantly, listen again next week. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Good night.